Nick, is this their first time to be in a place which ends with 99?
It is. I was like looking at all this earlier and I'm like, this is a good fit. 99 seconds. And so a lot of people ask me like why 99 seconds, and I can just quickly answer that question. And in terms of it's nice to be here. It's nice to be in Estonia and Tallinn, of course, and here at Lift 99. But 99 is just, it's actually it's a number that's always been important to me. And a bit of information here. I graduated high school in 1999. So when like you like set up emails back in the day for like Hotmail. I don't know why, but like I think one of my emails was like I had 99 on there because it was like the year that I was graduating, and um, all of a sudden 99 became a number for me. And then when I created Founders Live, I wanted to have something pretty unique, and we wanted, when I had the first event, which I can tell the story, but I just picked this, like, it's not 90 seconds, it's not 2 minutes, it's 99 seconds. And I can tell you, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, of just picking something very distinct and unique. And now it's like all over the world.
Yeah, also the startups who've already competed, they think it's very difficult. They're scared of the 99 seconds pitch. Although I think they're more scared of me counting the time. It's probably that. And but they know that they can do the pitch because usually lift pitch is 30 seconds. They just got the extra time to do it. They have this 4-minute Q&A. They're on stage for 5 minutes and 39 seconds. So it works out for them very well. Okay, so we know the story and everything. Let's talk about your trip, what you're doing here. You just arrived back, not back, you're right here from Vienna just yesterday.
Flew in yesterday.
Yeah. So you're here for until 2nd of June.
Yep.
Then you're heading to the Nordics, as we can see on the map. Your next journey will take
Finland.
you, to Finland, and then our Nordic main hub, I call it Stockholm, and from then you'll visit Oslo and Copenhagen as well.
Yeah.
So when you arrived to Estonia yesterday, you came from Vienna. Obviously, different culture, different language. What were your first impressions to arriving? We're still not fully comfortable calling ourselves a Nordic country. At least we're a Baltic country. We can say that.
Yeah.
So what were your first impressions when you arrived here?
Well, geez. I guess a bit of context, and I'll definitely answer that question, but you can see the map, right? And, this is actually my first time traveling through Europe. Took me this long, and I don't know why. Actually, I didn't travel a lot earlier in my life, and about 5 years ago, for a few reasons, but a lot of them was Founders Live, I started to actually travel the world. And each year I pick a part of the world and tour and travel to visit our Founders Live cities. So I wrap it specifically in Founders Live, and I do this, and it's an absolute, it's crazy, it's amazing, it's fun. Last year I did South America for about the same amount of time, almost, about 4 months, 4.5 months. But you can see all those cities and countries. And so what's hard to describe is that going from one to another, I'm there for 5 to 7 days. You get enough of the flavor of the city and the country. It's like a taste, right? And most of these are the big cities. You're not going out in the countryside, or you're not seeing much of the country, but I'm in the city. And so, going, Vienna was great, and I really enjoyed it. And then, but, if you see the map, right, it's like, it's a little more south. I don't know, coming up here, look, I've only been here 24 hours, all right? So I don't know, but there is an energy here that's different. And I don't know, it's cool. Like, I'm staying in the
Rotterdam, yeah.
Rotterdam. Mm-hmm. And last night I was like, I go to my Airbnb, and then I like was walking around a little bit, and like, kids are drinking and having a good time. And I'm like, oh, there's an energy here. I don't know, I think it just feels like a fun energy, a light energy. The weather is great. I know it's not like this all the time. I'm from Seattle in the United States. Our weather from like July, August, September is perfect. It's great. And, I've landed yesterday. I was like, oh, all right. Summer's here. I'm in the Nordic. Like last night at 11:30 at night, it's like still light out. And, I was outside and I was like, wow, even at midnight, there was still light in the air. And then I woke up very early this morning and struggled with that. And so, it's just nice to be up here. So I feel an energy here. I, I think it's interesting as you travel through these European cities and countries, you can feel the residual history kind of hanging with the countries and right with the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in Zagreb and Vienna, I mean, you can kind of just feel some of this history. Zagreb is only 30 years out of a they're going through, it's still early in their process of being an independent country. You can feel it. People that I'm talking to remember when it was before the war, right? So it's really interesting, but it's fun to be here in Estonia. I'll tell you this, being an American in Seattle, Washington, in the United States, when we hear about Estonia, you're like, where? What? And you think it's just like this dream to like, how would I go there? And so it's really fun to be here, in this part of the world, because it's not normal. No one else in my life has ever been here before. I can tell you that.
Yeah, there used to be a saying that people in America, they were interviewed and they asked, what is Estonia? And some fella said, is it the state of US? It kind of sounds like, because it has to sound like it's the state of the US.
Yes.
Okay. How much do you know about Estonia? And considering that you were for many years looking at city leader here,
Yeah.
from what I know, how much you were familiar with the startup, the entrepreneurial culture here? How much did you know that we're one of the best countries, considering that we have the most unicorns per capita here, and we've built this infrastructure and everything around here less than 30 years. So
yeah, it's really impressive. I mean, I will say that Founders Live started 10 years ago, and I can maybe give it a little bit of background in a second. But for a period of time, it was like, all right, New York, Chicago, Austin, and kind of expanding through the U.S. But as we started to expand internationally, and as Europe really became more of a focus, I knew about Estonia and like, your all the digital things that are going on. It's very it's advanced here. Your government has committed to the future, or the present and future, not holding on to the past, and I appreciate that. And then, when you look at these like Skype and Bolt and Pipedrive, very familiar with them, and this is really awesome. I mean, this wall is really great, and more unicorns per capita, that says a lot. And I think like I really think that this country, and there's been some decisions that have been made, and maybe it is because it's such a young history in some ways, right? It's just like, hey, we're going to commit to the future very instantly. Maybe that's why, but the government's made a lot of good decisions to usher in and support entrepreneurship, and I appreciate that. Because look, obviously the US is the US, but there's still a lot of things there's a lot of paperwork and red tape, whatever words you want to say. Some of these cities have a lot more of that, or kind of older thinking, and not embracing innovation as quick as maybe they should. Estonia is for sure doing that, and it's impressive.
Mm-hmm. So you said you had a bit of FOMO when you leave the city, that you're already getting there, and then you just have to leave at the right time when you remember all the street corners and where to take a coffee and everything, like you said in your behind the scenes videos. You can also check them out on Nick's LinkedIn account. He posts for each episode at least one video from behind the scenes where he shares what he's been doing in that city.
We're recording right now.
Yeah. So Um, how do you cope with traveling? I mean, when you went to South America, then you obviously had probably maybe not the same experience, considering most of people, the culture there is very Hispanic and towards that. But then you come from US to Europe with half a billion people living here, and there are rich cultural differences here, languages. How do you cope with that coming from
Yeah,
one city to one country?
it's it's tremendously difficult, actually. I mean, look, that is very fun, and I understand that. It's an impressive map for sure, um, but it's also really challenging to these go into a new city. These are all new cities to me, and I get an Airbnb because I am not a hotel guy in the sense like I'd rather live like in a neighborhood, and I want to experience the city like a local would experience the city. So I get an Airbnb, and the first few days is like very uncomfortable. It's just like disorienting. Each new city, you land in the city, it's a new neighborhood. You gotta, you're mapping it on your phone. You try to find your Airbnb. You got to find the key, and you have to go through the exact same figuring out to like check in and unlock the place and everything. Okay, you know, the how's the apartment set up, what, like, you got to go and get groceries, and so like you got to do a little inventory of like what's in there, and what I'm typically getting the same things every week. But then where's the grocery store, where's the coffee shop, you just go through all this stuff, all right? But then at about day 3 4, you actually get used to it. You know where to turn right and turn left, and you're like, whoa, this is cool. I'm actually walking through the neighborhood. Like, you get used to it, and then you're seeing the city, and you're seeing, whether it's like Venice or man, Athens. I mean, my Airbnb was on the hill, of the Acropolis. It was literally like 300 meters from the Acropolis. Like, it was right on the hill. Like, the houses go up to a certain point, and then you're like up there. And I just really enjoyed it. And I was like walking around and just really enjoying, Athens. And then you have to go, and you feel it. It's the weirdest feeling we were talking about. It's like you're like, oh shit, okay, I gotta leave tomorrow. My flight's tomorrow. Your body starts to already kind of be going to the next place. And the beauty is I'm going to the next place, and it's literally fun. It's going to repeat. It's going to be the same thing. But the FOMO is that you being in a city for like 5 days or 6 days, at most like 7 days, you don't see enough. And you want to, like, there's a parts of Tallinn that I'm not going to be able to see. But I immerse myself enough that I get the culture and all that. And obviously, we have Founders Live events. It's just great. But the FOMO is just, you don't want to leave, because you're just getting used to the city and you're seeing it. And I mean, the way I would describe this sounds crazy. I understand it. It's weird to say, but like when you look at that, like these trips, if I'm going somewhere for a week, most people like save up and they're like, we're gonna go on this big trip for like 1 week to Athens or to London. I'm doing that 24 times in a row because I'm gonna hit about 24 cities. That's hard to even comprehend. And but the beauty and what keeps me going is, like, you all and our city leaders. And we've known each other on Zoom and had calls and stuff, but this is great to meet you in
Yeah.
person. And pretty almost all of those cities we have Founders Live and our team there, and then I'm meeting the founders, and this is what keeps me going. It's inspiring to me. I'm hoping it's inspiring. Founders Live is inspiring to our ecosystem and our community. But that's why I travel, is to meet all of you and to hear your projects. And why are you an entrepreneur? What is unique about Estonia? What is it like to be building a company here? Just as you probably wonder what it's like to be a founder and build a company in the United States. That's why I do this.
Yeah. So before we dive into the show, let's just talk a little about the architectural richness of Europe, what you witnessed.
Yeah.
So in which cities you had, the most impressive, thoughts when you went through this city and you were looking like this is literally history lying before me.
I I mean, it's now it's like picking favorite children, but I think the city that I actually probably fell in love with the most at this point is Florence in Italy. And you're in that city. First of all, like all of these European cities, like you have to understand the context. Like in the United States, our country is less than 300 years old. And Seattle, and we're on the West Coast. By the way, the expansion of the United States was east to west. So a city like Seattle is young, and we don't have 400-year-old buildings. We literally don't even. We barely have 100-year-old buildings. So the architecture is not awesome, but yeah, they're like, we have all these new buildings and they're like LEED and very energy efficient, and that's great. It's all like glass and whatever. But as an American and touring Europe, walking around these cities, it's just beautiful, beautiful buildings. And Florence was a city that I not only really enjoyed, just it's big enough but not too big, and you can walk around it and all the amazing buildings, but you feel the history. And I think when you go back, again, you're talking about 400, 500, 600 years, and Michelangelo and Da Vinci, and these, like, they're there, and that was a center of innovation at a time. These people were there creating these things, and crazy enough, you can feel it. And I would say the community, and they're still, they use that as inspiration, but they're mending it now, and they're kind of combining it into today's world and innovation. And we had our Founders Live event in a building. They were telling me like this is like 400 years old, and it was where like they were making the horses would bring in the grain to the bottom level, and then they would have all these or actually they'd bring it into this, they would have this ramp bringing them at a certain level. They would pour the grain down into these silos, and it was all built up. And then they were making bread and all of this back in the day, when actually bread was like almost like a currency. It was like pretty valuable. Food was in that way. And this building now houses, it's Nana Bianca, it houses tech startups and innovation. And so you're like sitting here and you're like, wow, this building back in the day was innovative and part of their economic culture, and now it's driving like the most forward-thinking technology in that city. So that's pretty amazing. And so I don't know. So I really enjoyed it, and Madrid, Spain, has incredible buildings and architecture, and so you can just, each city you go into, you just like kind of get a feeling of the history of the country and the city, and then that culture specifically, and then the architecture. And I don't know, to me I just enjoy it, because you do not have that in the United States. Like, we don't have anything that looks like this stuff.
So it looks like Florence and Tallinn have sort of similarity, that even this house actually was a factory kind of, all of this district a factory kind of district before. So not now, we're not producing any more goods, we're producing services and other stuff that startups do in a different way, but it's productive.
That's awesome.
And also innovative in a way.
I like it.
Yeah. So let's talk about your Exploring Greatness show.
Yeah.
So Nick, this is a dream come true for you.
Yes.
Right. So where did you first manifested your dream, and how did you get your dream to reality?
Yeah. So you can see up there Exploring Greatness, and we've created a concept that we're working on that really dates back to I started to travel in 2019 for Founders Live, similar to this. And in 2019, it was the year before the pandemic. Actually, long story short, a relationship ended. I needed to move out of, my girlfriend at the time were living together, and we were kind of heading down a road of marriage, and then it just didn't, it was our decision to split. And I instantly said, hey, I know people in all these cities around the world. Why not I put my stuff in storage. I made a map like this, but it was just like I went through the U.S. and then actually went to London and went through a couple cities in Africa and then went to Argentina. And so I traveled on the road for like the entire year. And even back then, like Luis, who you know, one of our other team members, like we started to talk about the, this needs to be filmed. And more importantly, what's happening is as I travel, like this is happening. So meeting entrepreneurs, we have events in all these cities. So basically, by default, we're surfacing amazing people that are building really cool things. What if there was a show that was a travel show that each episode was a different city, that we covered the culture, we covered the greatness and cool things in the city, but more importantly, we're telling stories. Going back to the gather around the campfire, we're telling stories of inspiring entrepreneurship coming out of Tallinn or coming out of Helsinki or coming out of wherever, right? And so we've been working on this for a while, but obviously the pandemic, kind of hit and we put the plans on hold. I was actually talking to a production team in 2019, and then because of the pandemic, it just went silent. And then I did a little bit of travel, but last year I did Latin America, and we didn't record anything, and I just totally just traveled. I just enjoyed it, but it was like, no, the world needs this, and so we're creating this year. This is our pilot season of the show Exploring Greatness, shooting it through Europe. And so certain cities we're hiring, we have a videographer team that we hire in the cities like Lisbon, Zagreb, we did one. We'll do one Stockholm, London, Amsterdam, and Dublin. And we actually have people on the ground, camera crew, follow me around. We also do the event. And then I'm shooting a lot of stuff myself, and we're just dropping it in folders, and we're gonna put it all together, and we're gonna do a 6-episode pilot season of this show that follows me around, tells the story of Founders Live, highlights amazing things happening in the city, as well as founders that we come across, and these are founders that are pitching at Founders Live, and so that's the vision, is really to have a major show that each season, like each year, I'll travel to a different part of the world and just start, highlighting amazing founders doing amazing things. And exploring greatness is great because it's not just greatness within us, but it's also, some of the city and some of the architecture and, some of these like history of these cities. And so it's been fun, and, we're working on it this year, this first season, and we'll see how it goes. But it's been really fun, putting it together. And part of it is me telling my story, telling the Founders Live story, hearing it from your angles, our city leaders' angles, and then kind of having founders share their thoughts. And hopefully this ends up on Netflix or Amazon or Apple, or that's we're gonna take this year and put it in front of them.
I'm hoping it does, because the world needs this kind of travel show, a show that shows global entrepreneurship.
Well, right, and if you, I don't know if you're all familiar with like Anthony Bourdain and what he did. He had his show, and unfortunately, that he's not here with us anymore. But it's those unique like shows that grab not only the culture, the energy, but also then infuse, like our angle is like to infuse not just my personality, but then the Founders Live aspect, and then all of you founders, like if we can end up having that be a part of the show. And I think like there's too many shows that just highlight these people that are already, unicorns, or oh, they're very successful, or they're billionaires. We want to highlight you all that actually are the ones that are building stuff and inspire other people. So that's what the show's going to be about.
So going through the cities, how much you felt that your show has gotten more people into what Founders Live is doing, or actually about pitch competitions and all? Have you felt it that you're coming to the city somehow gets the people going more interested about Founders Live, or what's been your experience with that?
I think So yes and no, in the sense, it's still pretty underground right now in a lot of ways, and we're just kind of taking step by step. This is also in anything that, I mean, you all would build, you kind of have an MVP, you test some things out, start light, work on it, build it. So that's where we're at. And so at this moment, I think it's adding a little bit of context. Like, if people see like, oh, Nick's coming in town, like they might end up showing up. But we are not doing major marketing like in every city. It's just we're not doing that. I could see that happening in the future. This could end up being a much bigger thing. But it's just fun, like in Zagreb, like there was actually a film crew, and it's a pretty big event, and there's cameras there, and it was really, really fun. But I think that it adds a bit more element for me to be in town, and obviously I'm going to be there on Thursday. It's going to be really fun. But we're still learning. This is the pilot season for a reason, and I think we're going to get enough that we have a production team that's in the United States. They'll be putting it together, and then we'll have enough that we can put it in front of the executives to, like, if this could be a much bigger thing. If there's a huge budget behind it, then there's going to be a lot more that we do. Yeah.
So, what are your plans for in Estonia about filming events? Okay, we have the pitch competition coming up in Palo Alto Club this Thursday. So be there. It's at 6 p.m. There's still tickets. There's probably gonna be more people than we had back a few pitches back. So what are your, because we have people here, maybe some of them are interested to do something together, either a podcast or event interview. Anything else you would love to do in Tallinn?
Well, first off, if anyone does want to, basically it's like to sit and have an interview, almost like a podcast. I would love to chat with you, and we can kind of coordinate how to do that. I am here until Sunday, so I actually am taking a boat.
Ferry.
I'm taking a ferry over, so that's going to be fun. But I leave Sunday, so just know that there's some days here, and then Thursday, our event is going to be great. Excited about that. I am also working. Like, this ain't a holiday. This is not. This is some serious stuff. We're building. We're strongly building right now, and so I have meetings pretty much every day, and I have stuff that I need to work on, and so it's hard. Like, it's hard to balance this, and imagine being in a new city every week, but you still have to kind of do literally work your hours of the job that you're, the business you're building. And so I try to get out in the evening time, and then weekends. I know that Saturday I'm very open. I'm not doing much Saturday, but I take that Saturday and walk around the city, and that's kind of where I get like content. I like to shoot the things in the city on the weekend, and so I'll do that Saturday, probably Friday as well, just to get out and walk. And for me, like, I will go and just capture some cool stuff in the city and just kind of that B-roll stuff. And then I do some kind of self interviews as well. In each city, I'm, not only like I'm setting up this and I actually record, but I'll do some things throughout the city. So, but yeah, if anyone is interested in, sharing your vision or thoughts, like, please, like, let me know, and we can set up a time to do that. Most efficiently would be actually before the event on Thursday. If you show up early, maybe an hour before the event, that would be perfect. So we can talk for 10 or 15 minutes or something. But yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And when you have people on your network, let them know Nick's here and is ready to communicate, to get together. And I'm sure.
Would love to see you on Thursday. And, if you want to invite people, it'd be great. It's going to be a fun event. Our Founders Live events, look, we, just to kind of go back a little bit, I started Founders Live 10 years ago in Seattle to really solve the problem. Initially, it's kind of like a two-part thing. First problem was I just wanted to get people together. I wanted to have kind of build a founder community in Seattle and create a pitch competition. And that very first event I did March 28th, 2014, decided the 99-second pitch, We had 5 founders that were going to go and pitch, and then there was 4 minutes of questions, and we cycled through them in that way. And at the end, the crowd voted on a winner. And like I said when we started, that kind of format is like, what a great decision. I don't know how many great decisions I've made in my life, but that one was like, whoa, that works. It's kind of like little magic. And the reason why I call it magic is because it's spread all around the world. Those numbers, we're now in about 120 cities across like 48 countries. And we're going to, there's about 20 to 25 that are going to launch here in the next kind of 3 to 6 months by the end of the year. And so it has spread all around the world. It's really amazing. And the key thing here is I went from just creating this pitch competition to we started to discover that the reason why this is happening, this is not about me. This is about entrepreneurship being a human desire. You all are here in Estonia. You are identified and want to be entrepreneurs, it looks like. And, I've been through Africa and Zimbabwe and other places. They want to create. I, been in Peru, Argentina. So what it really proves is entrepreneurship is really a human desire. And yet, so many, and I think it's in the billions, but it's at least hundreds of millions of people are underserved and not getting the opportunities that they need to be successful. The resources, the connections, the access to capital, the exposure, and really what that means is just their message getting far enough in the market to actually get attention from investors or customers or people that want to help them and work with them. That's the problem. It's the problem here. It's a problem in the United States. And when you actually think like, why does it seem like the 1% are the ones moving forward and being the financially successful ones? And it's because it's the industry and the ecosystem is still really broken. So that's what we're doing. And so it went from like, initially I'm just kind of throwing this party and having this pitch competition, and we're now building this ecosystem to really help you all and drive economic growth, and especially on the low end, right? The early stage that is really the most vulnerable. So that's why we're doing it, and that's why we're here.
So we're actually helping not 90% of startups failing, but we're actually helping them to drive, to not fail, because this is the cold statistics.
Well, yes, and it's my theory. I think so. 0 to 1, right? He says one of the things that Peter says in that book is that he asks the question of like, what do you believe that no one else believes, right? And as a founder, you need to lock onto something that would be your unique vision, because if you're just doing something that's not unique, everyone's going to do this, and it's too much competition. So what is one thing that most people would disagree with you on, but you are passionate enough and you see enough that you think that can be your edge? For me, is I believe that there is many, many, many more people that can and will be successful as entrepreneurs. They just don't have those opportunities yet. And I think a VC would say, no, there's only a few. So we're looking for the unicorns. And I think that's where we differ as Founders Live. We're here for the masses. We're here to bring opportunities to people and teams that if they have them, that's going to be a $5 million, $10 million, $100 million business. Sure, if it could end up being a unicorn and $1 billion, that's great. But there are so many people that just need infrastructure. They need ecosystem. They need opportunities and options for like capital and funding and all these resources. And that's what we're doing. So that's what I believe in. That's the big bet, I would say, is, I think the world has, I think it's probably about 500 million to 1 billion people that actually want to and could be more successful. They just don't have the opportunities yet. So that's what we're building for.
I mean, it just feels very special to be part of this Founders Live community as a seed leader. And also building this community here in Tallinn has showed that when I'm doing these events, people come to me and say, hey, this kind of event is missing in Tallinn. We've been waiting for this. And this is part of it why I'm doing this. Because honestly, being a city leader here can be very stressful. Finding startups to pitch, they're constantly scared of the 99 seconds, and some of them are, unfortunately, life comes through, they cannot
Yeah.
attend and so on. So when you do these kind of events, then you start to build the community, and the community gives you back. So when we talked about opening the doors, one of the values of Founders Life, what kind of experiences have you had through this opening door?
No, like all the core values are, I think, really, they're important, and they mean all. I mean, the story real quick is a coach sat me down when I started Founders Live. One of my coaches I was working with at the time, he literally was like, we sat down and had a meeting, and he asked me, what is important to you? And I would encourage all of you to take some time to think about this. What is important enough to crystallize that the company can be, it's the foundational core values of what you stand for and what you're building. And what came out of it was those that she read, and open the door really just means doing great things for people without expecting a return. And I kind of thought back, and I was like, there's kind of two types of experiences or people in this world. And the one is like, yeah, I'll do this for you, but you need to pay me, or you need to get, it's the like, I will do this for you if you do this for me. Okay. And then the other one, and there's people in your life and in my life that are like, hey, how can I help you? Sure. And one of the key things is like making introductions for people, opening the door like of opportunity, and helping them when yeah, okay, I'll take that coffee meeting. It kind of feels like they need a lot of help from you, and you might not get back. If you open the door and you just do that, it is tremendous. So I thought back, and like, when I was an outsider in, meaning like in 2010, 2011, 2012, I was kind of coming into the tech world in the startup community from another, industry and career. And I think back of the people and the advisors that met with me, knew my, the idea I was working on at the time, who probably didn't have, what it takes, but they just were nice, and in the sense of they gave me feedback, but they kept inspiring me. And I really just realized that that's it. They're opening the door for me. They're making introductions. They're helping me. They're doing things that they're not telling me, oh yeah, by the way, that's going to cost $100 an hour or $200 an hour to meet with me. They're not saying that. They gave their time to me, and I think that really made a huge impact, and so put that as a core value into the company. And then now you brought up as a city leader, it, but I can tell you, as a city, by doing this, you're changing people's lives. You're opening doors for people, whether you know it or not, and that's what we stand for. And I think when you start seeing that and you take that across all the cities around the world, now you see, as Founders Live, we're starting to power that stuff. And I think the big thing is, as that starts getting passed on, people can say, oh, I want to open doors for other people, because that's the right thing to do. Plus, it does come back to you. Mm-hmm. So Founders Live is growing around the world because as I open doors for people, it's come back to me like 10 times. And now people, like, not a day goes by, seriously, I get emails every single day about this and that. We all get emails that people are trying to sell us stuff, but I get a lot of emails that are just like a lot of messages that, hey, like, do you need someone in such and such city? Or, oh, like, the door's opening all the time now. So it's a tremendous core value, and it, was very important to me early on. And I think it's really important now as we see it, as we grow around the world.
That's just fantastic. One thing I remember from your behind the scenes video, we all know this saying, be one in a million, but you said be one in one. Yeah. What's that about?
Yeah. So she's talking about, as I film stuff in the cities, and this is a lot of the content for the show, but I was talking about, like, being one of a million, yeah, it's like we hear that all the time. It's like, no, you got to be unique. So be the one out of a million or a billion, whatever number you want to. It just occurred to me that I don't necessarily like that angle of the thought. I think the thought's the same, which is be unique, find your differentiation and your angle, but be one of one. Like, you know, if you're one of a million, you're still kind of competing in a group that you're latching on to. Hey, we're like, we're fintech, or we're, buy now, pay later kind of thing, or whatever. I would encourage you to think even much more uniquely of stand out in the crowd. Do something that is distinctive, unique. And if you can be one of one, like, by the way, you brought up Uber. Uber was one of one for at least a time. Like, I remember when, they came to Seattle, like Seattle was probably one of the first 10 cities, maybe 5 cities that they entered. And I remember being like, wait, time out. I can on my phone hit a button and some car shows up and I just get in, and then I get out and the payment's like, I don't even have to take my credit card out or take cash out. You ride it, like back in the day when you're riding in taxis and you're like, oh shoot, I actually don't have enough money. Whatever, if or like it's, yeah, I take a card, but they sit there and take out that machine and they do all this. When Uber came into Seattle, that was one of one. I mean, their competition, yeah, they were like a taxi, but there was nothing like it. So if you think about that example, I would say innovate in a way that you can be one of one. So you're not competing on price, the lowest, cheapest price of like the 10 or 20 or 50 companies in this industry. How can you identify and distinctly, that's why we have core values. There are pitch competitions all over the world. There's not a lot that are all in these countries and cities. There's not a lot at all. But there's also nothing like Founders Live, because if you look at the core values and the things that we stand for and the messages we put out, we are one of one. I can say that. And I would encourage all of our founders to think like, how can we be one of one? Because it at least makes the journey a lot more interesting and fun, and not trying to compete on like the lowest price or the fastest, or I don't know. If you've heard of the blue ocean strategy, and there's blue ocean and there's red ocean, meaning like red ocean is a lot of competition in the ocean. Sharks are over here eating things. And then over here, blue ocean is very open. That's another way to think about this.
So, okay, I'm sure in the audience we have a lot of people who are one-on-one. And now is the time to ask your unique questions. So let's go. And now is your great chance to ask something from Nick.
Any thoughts, questions?
For sure. How do you think is the competition spirit is your native thought as a person, or it's something what you get when you become more like businessman or entrepreneur, and you wanna focus to spread your visions, inspire someone else to make the common company culture or something like that?
So are you asking about like, maybe say that one more time, or like specific question?
Okay. So what is the most important part of competition for you? So when you wanna enjoy in competition?
Yeah. I'll answer it 2 ways. I think someone said this earlier tonight, but like, I view competition like it's a lot of internal. Like, this is me. I compete with myself, or like the process of growth, and where I and we as a team and a global company want to take this, versus to this day, like, there's no company that Founders Live is competing with to like do XYZ. That's why I'm saying one of one. But I think competition internally having, and this is for everyone, have your own ways that you challenge yourself and push yourself and better yourself and your company. And, what are your, yearly metrics that you're putting out? How did you do this year? What are you doing next year? And what's the incremental growth for 20, 30 years in the future, whatever. That's all individual in terms of how you're doing that. But I think that's the internal personal way, right? Very self-driven. And then on the other side, there's also competition from just, when you look at what's out there, and now you're looking at the market, and there are brands that Founders Life competes with, and that's really just for attention and money from companies and other things of that nature. I think the way I view it is, I think there's a healthy part of being an entrepreneur. You have to have, again, I think it's that internal drive. This is where I think the great ones, when we talk about exploring greatness, I'm literally talking about there's the great people in this world are inherently competitive in one way or another, whether that's with themselves or the market, and we're going to make billions of dollars or whatever. So I think it's the combination of finding your internal drive and then how you're going to compete in the market for attention, for growth, business influence, and all of that. So it's many, many layers. And I don't know if I answered the question, but I think I view it as the internal and the external, and it's a nice balance each way. Yeah.
So yeah, about the pitch competition, then this reminded me, I don't know how it's in other cities, but in Estonia, this competition really creates a little bit, I don't know, tension, or it's very important for them. So when I've done these two pitch competition, I've already seen people who do not win are a little bit sad that they're not winning.
I know.
Although if I would be in their place, I would take it more in a freestyle, it's an opportunity to show yourself and just be on time in 99 seconds. But they really do seriously take this competition and they want to win.
I love it. And so again, let's go back. When I started this 10 years ago, I wanted it to be important enough for the people, for someone. But look, there's not money on the line. There's not $50,000, $100,000, $1 million. So it's this light competition. But again, when you put founders that are purposeful and building things, you put them in a room, and it's a competition. We get serious about it. But here's the most important thing. This is a forcing function for entrepreneurs to figure out what the heck you're doing. Like I was telling, back there, he might pitch on Thursday. It's a forcing function for founders to actually look in the mirror and say, what am I building? What is our vision? What is our business model? Who's our customer? What have we done thus far? And why should people care? That's basically the path of a pitch. And to do that in 99 seconds and then have it be a competition. And the great thing is, because there's not $1 million on the line, it's important, but it's not, life. It's not, it's going to crumble. Life's going to crumble here. I think it's great that people are taking it seriously, because in the end, who's the winner? Them. If you practice, you prepare, you create a great pitch, you may or may not win the event, but geez, you just changed and transformed yourself. And I've seen so many events where people they'll literally tear up, they're almost crying, because whether they won or not, they feel that change. It made them go from, I don't really know what I'm doing, to I'm much more clear on what we're building now, because I practiced for the last 2 weeks. I made that 99-second pitch, and oh my God, and then maybe they won. So then they're all happy, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, I see a lot of people, you see people on stage, they're seriously shaking and nervous, and I think it's cool.
Yeah, they're fighting their fears, which makes them more stronger. And yeah. So yeah, about the preparation for the pitch, it just reminded me that our last pitch competition winner was the last one I invited just 2 days before.
Yeah.
Uh, their pitch wasn't 99 seconds; it was like 35 seconds or something like that. But they managed to get people to like them and
Yeah.
to vote for them, and they won. So it doesn't matter how much you prepare or not. It doesn't matter how many people they're in the pitch competition with you. You can always win if the audience is by you.
Well, yeah, let me share a thought real quick on that. The pitch, 99-second pitch, not a lot of time. Your goal is to get people to nod their head with you, like, oh, I get it. The pitch is really about identifying the problem in the world, that you see it and you're solving it in a certain way, that you have a vision of the future. Here's how you are making money or whatever the structure of the business is, and then here why people should care and where they can, maybe take action, whether that's like an investment or something. And, wrapping a storyline through it. That's why Gather on the Campfire is also a core value. Is your pitch should be entertaining and, not full of just all this data. Your pitch should, because it's a 99-second pitch. This is not a 20-minute investor pitch. That's where you can have all your slides with all the information and all the graphs and all that stuff. So, I've seen so many founders, from here to there and whatever, go through this process. But that's the point, is that your goal is to get people to say, wow, yes, that is a challenge. That's a problem. I want to learn more. I like that. That person, I like the message there. Vote, because the crowd votes. Okay. So, and by the way, that's how business works. In reality, you need to influence the market to actually like you and do business with you in your business. That's the way it works. That's why we have crowd voting, not 2 or 3 judges here, because, through marketing, through messaging, you need to influence the market to actually follow you.
Yeah. So are there more questions?
I have one, yeah. I think so. I bet you have witnessed like hundreds of pitches, right?
Probably thousands.
All right. So, would you say the intention of the pitch is to get people to buy on your vision, to buy on your product, or like to actually give you money at the end when you? In other words, is it more an exercise of branding, marketing, or sales? Or does this?
I think it's a combination. And there are investors in the audience at times. Like, we don't promise that, but some of our events have like 200, 300 people, right? So investors show up, and we for sure have had a lot of startups that pitched at Founders Live go on and get investment because of what happened. But in general, it's best to think it more as a consumer marketing, essentially, like you're putting your message out there. It's like a 1.5-minute commercial in some ways, right? But it needs to be structured in a way for people to understand what you do, want to take action, meaning, yeah, I would love to book a meeting with that person so I can like learn a lot more. A sale, maybe or maybe not, but yeah, it's much more of that than just sitting up there and just talking about like the graphs and it's all this like weird stuff. No, it's about, I think it's better to think about it like a commercial, even though I don't necessarily like commercials. That's what we're doing in a lot of ways, and we're teaching founders to actually understand how to communicate what they're building to the general audience, right? Not like another developer. We can use all these like letters and acronyms and stuff. No, you need to, what are you building? Why is it important? Tell that to the general public. And if enough people say, that's a great problem, I like that, I'm going to vote for it, all of a sudden, like, they won. And they're like, whoa, like, people liked it. It's kind of crazy, right? So, yeah, like, I would say the majority of the events I've been to or experienced, and it's, I've been doing this 10 years and a lot of pitches. If you look at the 5, if I was going to look before the event, I would make a thought and be like, I bet you they win. But then during the pitches, I know pretty quickly when now, like, I'm like, oh, that they nailed it. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm saying, like, a lot of times I'm like, that's probably the one that's going to win. And then there's some of them where out of the 5, they're so great. They're all so close. And it's just like, whoa, like, that's crazy. Like, look at the one who won. Like, I didn't really know. You can't really tell. But it's always fun. Each event is unique and different in its own way. And another cool thing about Founders Live is, when there's 5 founders, each startup is different. One could be a consumer, like, dating app. One could be this like AI tool for such and such. One is like, B2B enterprise, like software. One of them is like a hard, they actually brought like a prototype of their like tech. It's just it's like a group of 5 different companies. And so it's really cool because you're in a room where these people are, telling their vision, but it's like, it's all different types of things. And so it's really cool. You don't know who's going to win. Yeah. Good question.
All right. More questions?
I would just say, oh, yeah.
I'll ask a general question. If you have any quotes or quotes that you live by or have benefited you?
Well, this is going to be an easy one because I'm going to use his. I actually thought that slide was really good, and that was Robin Williams, right? And man, I think that sums up this big time. So, really to summarize what that slide was, the carpe diem, look, life can be really short. Life can be actually really long. Like, if you look at that, I think the two are those are both true. And I think the message is do something really important in life, but also do something that you, in the end, want to live that great life. And I see, especially in the United States, there's a lot of people going to jobs. Yeah, they might be making some money. They might be making good money. They are not happy. And I view life just like that statement was, just like, do it now. And the way I say it is like, I live hard. I live strong. Every year when I do this, I, have a feeling like, okay, this might be it. I mean, my plane might go down. Like, I might not survive. And my hope is that I'm living every day with that thought and making an impact that will continue when I'm gone. Because I know that even if I end up not being here anymore, like, I think this thing is going, and it won't stop when I'm not here. And so I think that's it, right? Like, so I really liked that. Robin Williams, I didn't know that he said that, but like that message of go do it and think big and think about, a life worth living and an impact to make in the world, and do it in your own way. Like, my life doesn't need to be, I'm not saying do this. I'm saying do what you feel is the best use of your time, and it's literally like, don't pay attention to anything else. Go do it, because the world needs that. And so I don't know. I think that's a long-winded way to explain that. And I would say not every morning when I wake up, like, I'm blessed and I love this, but I'm also like, this is hard. I'm telling you right now, this is a hard thing to do. And that's what gives me some of the most, like, energy back, is like, I work really hard, but it's also an amazing life. And I hope everyone can choose a path that can be that, So that's a good question. And I mean, I do have a lot more, but I think that's my message. I'm no better than any of you, right? Like, I grew up in a outside of Seattle, and I'm just this guy, right? Like I wasn't in tech. Like I'm not a technical guy. I'm not building this crazy. I just tapped into something that I believe the world is desiring, and I'm leading that out there and involving amazing people like Jaanika and others to be a part of it. And yeah, there's some cool stuff about that, but I'm no better than any of you. I'm here to like show that anyone can actually do it.
All right, so one last question, maybe.
I have a question. What in your life motivated you to do what you do today? If you could choose just one factor.
The short story is I was an athlete until I wasn't, and then in university I studied and actually graduated, and I was training athletes, and I was working with professional athletes, and working at like NBA players, WNBA, like basketball players, some NFL football players, like training them, speed, agility, strength, and all of that. And then, training at health clubs and stuff. And it became very clear to me that I started to feel this. I wanted to impact people around the world, and what I was doing was not going to do that. And I didn't know what this meant yet, but what I was doing currently was not going to meet that. Like I just wasn't going to accomplish that. And so it started this like 5 to 10 year like exploration and like transition into the startup world in Seattle, working in tech and startups, and then launching Founders Live. So I think in the end, it's just like I've always wanted to impact people. I've always wanted to, create something that is outside of me that can like, I don't know. To me, it was like, how could I be a part of something or create something that has that ripple effect? I was always looking at what to do there, and so I would say that influenced me. Like some of my first career was not serving in that way, and it wasn't giving me that. And I knew it needed to be something around technology, and then entrepreneurship has always been a desire, and like I've always like been curious about creativity, entrepreneurship, and other things. And so I think that's what it was.
All right. So before we're closing up, it's great that you mentioned the athletes, because Founders Live has special competitions for athletes who I know that are former athletes and they're transitioning to a regular life. So we're helping them to get their businesses running, to get them another life goal to go on with it. How is it working right now in the US? How many significant former athletes, which one of them, maybe some famous names out there who've been competing and so on? How is it going right now?
Yeah, this is a really good question, and we'll end on this. I ended up meeting some former NFL football players, and through the process of them learning Founders Live, it became clear that they're like, wait, time out. I don't know if you know this, but and this is true for soccer football players as well, or any athletes, professional athletes. They get defined as certain something in the early part of their life, and they ride that, and they're like an athlete, and they may have earned much money, maybe it's millions of dollars, but that comes to a stop at some point, and it's usually too early for them. Some of them it's late 20s, some of it's in the 30s and the 40s, but it's a psychological and emotional issue for them to end that career, and then what are they going to do next? And it became clear to me that a lot of them are actually like investors, entrepreneurs. They go into business. Now, if you look at the trend of what's happening, not just in the United States, but around the world, these people, men and women, are getting paid more and more, and then they're putting that money to work in various ways. They're actually investing. They're creating companies and doing things. So we've put a structure around this now to actually do kind of the Founders Live, but Founders Live athletes. And I think it's going to be called something else at some point. we're actually creating a whole new company and brand around this, and building out support, highlighting them, creating events. We've done 3 events, 2 at the last Super Bowls, so 2 Super Bowls, and then 1 that was in Seattle last year, and the next one will be at the Super Bowl, which is in New Orleans in February. And it's been really fun. And this is a little the higher end, kind of bigger deal. There is bigger names involved, and some of them are NFL players that won Super Bowls. Some of them are Olympic athletes that have won Olympic medals. But you realize, no, these people need help too. And more importantly, they're kind of left out. Like, imagine being well known as like a footballer or an Olympic athlete, and then it's just gone. And they're now like, what do I do? And so we're creating a system to help them do that. And that's just like another brand through Founders Live. So it's been really fun, and there will be a lot more around that. And we'll bring that to Europe in the next few years.
Wow.
There will be some Europe stuff.
Okay, that's great. And that's really a unique approach what we need for these athletes, because a lot of them end up being broke after their careers.
More than you know are in very bad financial situations. Like, some of them are, publicized, and a lot of them just, they were living a life. They were making maybe millions of dollars playing that sport, and then gone, and then their bills continue, right? And so that's bad. And then, they're also like, imagine that was your profession until you're like 40. And now you're like, well, what do I do now? Like, some of them didn't even go to college or university. And so they need a lot of structure around what an entrepreneur is. Here's how you build companies. Here's trusted resources and advisors. Here's the development services so you can actually get an app or website or whatever built. And so they need a lot of that, and it's fun to do. So
yeah. And I hope they will get psychological help too, because sports psychologists tell that they need get help when they're transitioning to their regular life, because it can be a huge difference, and they should be starting with the transition more early than 1 or 2 years, perhaps.
I agree. I experienced it on a very, very low level, and I can only imagine if you were like a well-known, or at least even just someone that played in a major sports league, and then what happens after that has to be pretty difficult. So it was nice to be here though, and it's nice to be in Estonia, and it's like, when I say that, I'm like, it's just really great to be here. And this obviously it's a fun trip, and please follow along, and hey, if you can be there on Thursday, I would love to see you.
Yeah, and invite all your friends. We still have room there. Come there. We have a networking hour starting at 6, and we'll start off with the official competition around 6:30. And to follow what Nick's doing, you can just go to founderslive.com, where you can see the Explore Greatness show when you scroll down a little bit on the website. And do follow Nick on LinkedIn. He'll share his behind-scenes videos, I hope, soon from here as well.
Yeah.
And so thank you again. Applause to everyone here.
Thank you. Thank you for the talk, and then